Hello and welcome to the Rubber Duck Dev Show. I'm Chris.
And I'm Creston.
I'm Amir.
And today we are going to talk about the future of DR. We're going to do some, hey, Sire, welcome, man. We're going to do some pie in the sky thinking and wish listing and other cool things that are happening in the DR community and what things we've got that are coming that we can play with. Hey, James, how you doing? So we're excited to have you here, Amir. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I know you're kind of
Happy
on
to
the
be here.
move today. You're at a convention.
I'm doing a code retreat. So
Oh, awesome.
every few months, I'm gonna disconnect from everything. Get rid of my huge monitor with my gaming mouse. Keep myself away from games and consoles, and just kind of work and think about crazy things and prototyping or what have you. So very slow internet connection today. So apologies if it's not that great.
Yeah, well, the 15-minute
So
pre-show
far,
has
so
been
good.
perfect, so
Yeah,
no worries.
I'm in Paradise, Texas, in the middle of nowhere. It's great.
Wow. Well, is it paradise?
It's quiet. It's really nice. It's
That's cool.
really nice. Lots of cows and horses, and try to stay away from those kind of animals that are very large and can kick. But outside of that,
Yeah. So we've already got people trying to convince you to commit to things on this show, but calm down, Sire. We'll get
hey,
there.
circles are coming. 2045. It's a promise.
But before we get into the fun stuff, well, the meat of this show, week in review. Kristen, how was your week?
Just incrementally working on a bunch of things. So it's basically I just got a bunch of irons in the fire, and not anything has exactly gotten done, but I've done minor things across like 5 or 6 different projects. So it's just feel like a chef with a bunch of burners going and cooking stuff. But so just kind of a hectic week, but not much I could say, hey, I did this or I did that. So that's kind of what my week's been like. What about you?
So Monday and Tuesday I had some kind of nasty head cold or something going on. I just felt like crap. I had to take 2 days off of work and lay out. But I did go do coding with Chris because I really enjoy that. And by the time I was done with that, I was just feeling better because our community is so awesome. And they come in the chat and we just have a lot of fun. I really enjoy Tuesdays and hanging out with those folks. So if you were there in the chat, yeah, Palantir. Thank you so much. You really made me feel better. That was hugely helpful. So now I'm back at work and playing the catch up on emails and messages game from being out. But it's just one of those administrative weeks. How about you, Amir?
I think I actually got a couple of things done, which I was really happy about. So the DR release of the Inscription threads was huge. Getting the performance boosts there. I know some people have already started trying it out and really like the boost. Obviously, I like it too because it's got what games that are web games I need to build. So that was big. And then my first Steam game went into early access, so that's exciting. And second Steam game is in the pipe to hopefully get early access soon. So a lot of finally all the things in the oven that have been cooking for months now just finally the timer went off, ding, and they all started coming out. So super happy about that.
Nice. Yeah, and so that's what I want to lead off with. The super exciting news in the DR world is that we now have a DragonRuby game on Steam. Here it is, right here in my Steam. I've wishlisted it and everything. It's there. So, for all the naysayers who were thinking, Ruby can't be a game programming language. There you go. I mean, that's what more can you say? It looks like a game, and it's on Steam. So,
Yeah, the Steam process is actually harder than the game dev process. It always
yeah.
is. I think
Uh,
I had to generate I think like 12 to 15 different marketing assets. Oh, it was brutal. And they're not all like 16 by 9 rescale the ratio. They're like different weird pixel ratios and everything to set up what you see now. But that was the annoying part. I got
Yeah.
rejected twice because my marketing assets weren't correct.
Oh goodness. So yeah, guys, if you're gonna put something on Steam, just be prepared for dealing with the Steam part. But the DragonRuby part, I'm
Yes.
assuming, was easy. Pretty
Yes,
straightforward.
that part we got working pretty well. We set up one metadata file and it does the packaging and uploads the binary to Steam. And the verification process, we just generally call it a lot check, LOTCHECK, and that's just like it's pretty much adopted from consoles. Consoles have a concept called lot check where they do that. So any verification process, we just kind of say lot check. But the game lot check process was cake. First time through it, it went, but those assets that was not fun.
Hey V, welcome to the stream. Glad you're here. Glad that everybody's here in chat. I hope everybody in chat is having a wonderful day. I'm having a wonderful day. I mean, it was a little drudgery this morning, but now that we get to talk about DR, I'm more excited and awake and happy. So always fun. So you've got this game on Steam now, but there's some more exciting news coming for Steam, which is that that's not it. That your Dark Room, it will be coming to Steam. So we're gonna soon have two, but I guess you're using Car That Turns as kind of a test out for Steam because it's kind of a lower visibility thing, and you want this one to be to have all the kinks worked out before.
Yeah.
There's
going to be quite a few more eyes on this release, I suspect. The soft launch is slated for the end of June. I mean, the end of July. So like around July 26th time period. And we'll see where it goes from there. Usually it does well on the platforms that it's released to. The nice thing for this one is that the source code it'll be moddable. So the source code will ship with the game itself. The copyright is still going to be under Scratchwork and Doublespeak Games, so it's not something that you can redistribute and sell yourself. But it gives you the ability to like hack on it locally.
Oh,
and
cool.
I mean it's something that indie devs just generally do. Like Baba Is You, all the source code kind of ships with it. I know a lot of devs worry about is like, oh, if you have the source code, they'll steal. It's like, one, we got to register trademark, and we've got DMAC takedowns and all those different things. And generally, yeah, if Baba Is You, I think they've made $24 million at this point. No one's going to. They could try stealing it, and like remarketing, redistributing it, but it's more for the longevity of a title as an indie dev to be able to have facilities open for people to mod and things like that. It's pretty important. So I think that's something. I mean that will be something that ADR will have that's unique to this platform.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool. And I like, because a lot of the games that I've played, the bigger games, even the AAA stuff, like I play a lot of strat games like Hearts of Iron and things like that. Those are all moddable, and what that seems to do is it seems to make those games last forever because there's always somebody putting new content out for the game, and you don't have to wait for the company to do it.
Yeah, and it's really important for indies too, because you'll have those communities that will help the longevity. So
right.
So, but yeah, it seems like all the kinks are worked out, and then title number 2 coming on in.
So that's really exciting. So that's one big piece of news for here. So what other things do we got going on in the DragonRuby world that are coming up that'll get people excited?
Yeah, so for the RAM requirement, it's 8 gigabytes really neat, or was that easy member? So I'm still trying to work out like the minimum system requirements. There are so many fields you have to fill out on that Steam marketing page, and it's like there's an asterisk beside everything. I was like, if I put something wrong, it's going to take another week to release. So as a safe side, I took the specs of the Steam Deck and just plastered that on each one of the requirements. So I knew it ran well on the Steam Deck. So I said, you know what, this is 8 gigabytes or Steam Deck or equivalent machine specs is kind of what I went with. But No, it doesn't require 8 GB of RAM. I'm sure you can. I think like it's 110 megabytes of RAM. I wish I could just say potato, but
Yeah.
yeah. The Raspberry Pi, the game runs at I think around 30 to 40 FPS. So you need twice as much as what the Raspberry Pi offers. But yeah, that's where the 8 GB kind of comes from.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what other cool things are you excited about coming to DragonRuby?
Yep. So Alex finally wrapped. He's wrapped up work on additional functions as opposed to C extensions. So the idea there is that you can use the entire MRB API within C extensions if you want to. Right now, it's a limited set of items, but we've increased the number of functions that are available. So I've kicked the tires on that. That should be merged in and released like next week once I come back from my sabbatical stuff or my code retreat stuff.
Cool.
So expect to see that. That's going to be in Indie and Pro. I think we expose the extensions in Indie license tiers, and yeah, you'll be able to have more stuff there.
Awesome. So how is that going to help Indie? What kind of use cases are those?
Yeah, the biggest thing there is C extensions are primarily helpful for incorporating air quotes systems and libraries that are not baked into a DR. So if you want SQLite, well, how do you integrate SQLite or DuckDB into a DragonRuby project? Well, that's where C extensions come in, because if they have a C extension available, or if those every library exists out there that has like a C binding. So those like external third-party things or those libraries that are external to DR, that's how you can integrate it. And then from there, you can expose it to Ruby and use it, air quotes naturally, like you would any other class or something.
Right.
So that another way to say it is like, if you go to mruby source code and look at hash.c, that's the hash, that's a C implementation for Ruby hash, where you can create your own types that are exactly like that.
So this is a stepping stone towards a kind of a plug-in gem system almost.
Mm-hmm.
So we can start bringing external things as long as they have C wrappers on them. You can start bringing those things in. Well, that's really exciting because I love me some gems.
And we've got the existing machinery for C extensions. It was cursory machinery that lets you let you do like a small number of things, like exposing C functions into Ruby, like from a speed standpoint. So like your Perl and noise stuff, this would be a good candidate for C extensions.
Yes.
And if you could do all the Perl and noise generation inside of C, and then surface that up to Ruby, this is something that would benefit from that.
Awesome. So I'm gonna have to get you on to Coding with Chris sometime to kind of walk me through that, because I've been wanting to move that stuff to C, but with this, it's gonna be much closer to how I can, because I don't know C. I mean, I took a C college.
It's okay, neither do I.
I took a C class in college, but that was 800 years ago. So
yeah, full disclosure, every time I go into the C code, both Ryan and Alex start panicking. They're like, what are you doing in there? Do not step away from the computer.
Don't touch.
Like, I know what I'm doing, I swear. But yeah, they're the magicians when it comes to that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, we're pretty close to I'm C++, you better, yeah. I believe you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'll get you on there, and we'll do a show where we kind of walk through how to do that process and stuff. So I'll let you know when that happens, folks, because I'm sure there are some people that would like to see, yeah, that sounds great, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Like me. So all right, cool. What other cool things have got you jazzed about the future of DR?
So that's definitely in the pipe and ready for release. As far as like pie in the sky stuff, that's kind of the territory that we're going to get into. Mm-hmm. So Circles 2045, that's potentially going to happen around that time period. That's always exciting to look forward to. we had yes, he likes circles in 2045 exactly. The Apple keynote just happened, and they talked about their VR headset. So Vision OS and their VR headset is something that potentially might happen. That it was their one more thing. The price point for their headset is like I think 3,500, and they're claiming 4K video resolution and
Wow.
within the screen, which I think it's insane, because 4K at 2 feet away would require your like lenses to have, I don't know, 8K per eye. I don't. It's we'll see what happens there, but there we haven't had access to the SDKs yet. I've hit the button to say, more info when available, but that's kind of where it's at right now. So as soon as I get visibility into that, it'll be interesting to see how that can integrate into our existing VR machinery, and yeah, see what happens there. So we shall see
Yeah.
is kind of where we're at with that stuff. Let's see what people are saying. From video reviews I've watched, almost everyone has said it's much better than you think. Yeah, reviews and is wrong, or maybe more reactions. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what they pull off there.
Well, it seems
4K
like
fidelity
almost
per eye
it,
is
it
serious.
yeah, like it has more resolution than real life has almost. It's like
It's yeah, it's kind of. I mean, I've always envisioned getting rid of my monitors and just having a headset on that gives me field of view.
mhm.
And if they're claiming 4K, 4K videos at, you know, from what I saw in the keynote, they were a good few feet away from that screen, and I have no idea. I have no idea how they got that kind of resolution. But if
That's
anyone
kind
can
of
do it, maybe Apple is.
yeah, that's for
So
sure. They are
so
innovators.
so that's in the pipe. It'll be interesting to see what VR experiences that we can expand on. We've got Steam support right now, but we're transitioning over to uh, we're using Open. I think we're using OpenXR right now for our library, but we need to transition over to another setup that gives us the pass-through capabilities that VR has, along with Steam VR, and then potentially Apple VR, depending on what the library infrastructure looks like.
So Paul Hudson, Two Straws has glasses. He said Apple really has worked hard to get it to as many people as possible. Yeah, and that's really important, especially in our community that's just full of people with glasses.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, corrective, and I think that's a great segue. Yeah, that's one of those things where my eyes are getting worse. I had perfect vision to 29 until I was 29, and then I was like, oh, you've got astigmatism, and I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I don't. And they gave me the glasses, like, wow, I see in HD. This is amazing.
whoa, yes, I do.
Apparently, I do. So, like, yeah, Eye Strain was a big thing, and that's kind of where I'm concentrating on with respect to DragonRuby is those accessibility features.
hmm
So thinking about things like just voiceover. So how is someone that is visually impaired going to play a video game, and what facilities can DR surface that are cross-platform that allows people with vision impairment, as in like completely just can't see, completely blind, play games built with VR. I mean, with
hmm
the DR, not
Yeah.
VR.
Although
but
maybe.
with DR, so that's the accessibility facilities are what is going to be the emphasis probably for the second half of the year. A part of that accessibility would be having guidance in there for, okay, well, you're building Steam Deck game or an iOS game. Your font size is less than 22 pixels. Guess what? That's going to be impossible to see on an iPhone SE. So consider increasing your font sizes. Touch areas, are your buttons are the button touch areas smaller than 80 by 80 pixels? That's going to be something that's affected on those kind of specific devices. colorblind stuff. So protanopia, I'm actually protanopia weak. So while I can, see the entire color gambit, it's those like specific colors. Like I think like one of the first times I realized it was like I was playing this game and it had those accessibility settings. I'm like, oh, let me try some of these colorblind, and then I set it to protanopia. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see those things a little bit better. What, this is amazing. So so some of the accessibility features with respect to color blindness, having those settings to say what does your game look like from this color wheel lens. And the interesting thing there is that to get those facilities, we need essentially shaders. So shaders is a big talking point, and something that would be really really nice if we exposed outside of SDL. And SDL3 is in the works, and hopefully we'll have those shader capabilities exposed to us. So that helps with doing shaders for changing out palette swapping, pixel shaders, and then hopefully exposing that to the devs themselves.
Would that not require having standard UI controls?
For standard UI controls for accessibility stuff, no. So the interesting thing about the way voiceover and accessibility APIs work is that you have the ability to navigate to the next control and previous control. So there'll be events for that. And then what's returned back to the accessibility facilities is a rectangle. So it's like, what is the bounding box in the domain's bounding box of the thing that I'm air quotes looking at. So there is a concept of air quotes UI controls, but it's this idea of what is the next thing, what is the previous thing, and what is the thing under my finger. So it's really interesting. When someone's using voiceover, let me get on the screen, they put one thumb down to say that they're looking for something, and then they use the other thumb to look around. And then as you move your other thumb, that will tell you what's underneath it. And then you use your other thumb to tap on that specific thing.
Wow.
So it could be a sprite. So you could be looking around and say, oh, there's an enemy underneath my thumb, and then what do you want to do against that enemy? So it's all bounding box, rectangular based previous and next controls, and that's how it uses to communicate what's on the screen.
So for something like what I'm building with that map, so I turn my map into a big sprite, right? And you've got all these different, each map cell has, a terrain type and all that kind of stuff. Would I just be adding that stuff to the sprite, like bounding boxes for each cell, and saying this is what that is, so if they go over it, it tells them?
That's essentially the API that we're trying to reason through. So do you give the entire like accessibility landscape up front with the bounding box and the label of what it is? Do you do it one at a time? Is it event based? There's also something they have it's called a magic tap, where they use 3 fingers to tap. So there's a tap which is 2 finger. It's like 2 finger tap is double tap. There's single finger. There's 2 fingers 3 times, which is triple tap. There's 3 fingers 1 time, which is magic tap. There's also this Z shape that's back. It's like, so there's some of these different facilities that are in there. So what do you do when they single tap or double tap or triple tap? What are some of the options there? So it's kind of a question: do you give all that information up front, or is it kind of as needed? But yeah, you basically have a rectangular, the region that you're operating on, and then a description.
Okay.
A text value. There's like a primary text value and then a subheading text value that they can read through.
Cool. And so you're talking about making it easier to add for the Ruby dev developers who are making games to add these functionalities to their games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Labels will have them kind of like baked in automatically. So and then we can do the next and previous. So some of that stuff will just kind of work. But yeah, for things like sprites and those additional facilities, that'll be something that we'll be exploring. And the interesting thing is that it feels like it really is an addition to your game. You know,
Mhm.
it does take work to make sure your game is accessible, but it forces us to work on those technologies that are more applicable to the the greater domain of developers like shaders, right?
Right.
I want color, I want colorblind testing. Well, I need to be able to change palettes on the screen without crushing the CPU. How do we do that? Well, okay, shaders is an option, and that's something that we'll have to expose out.
And once you bring shaders in, that's people use those for all kinds of things. There's a million uses for shaders.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And then voiceover is going to force us to figure out sound synthesis. So while iOS, has those sound synthesis capabilities, the Switch does not. So how do we synthesize sound? That's going to force things like sound synthesis to be a lot more enhanced and rendering voice and stuff. So
yeah. Hey, Granormo, welcome. Good to see you again. So I know that
and circles.
circles,
Shaders
yeah,
will help with circles also. So
right.
there you go.
So the other thing that kind of brings me to, and I know this isn't directly related per se, but there's all this talk. DragonRuby is a 2D engine. I've seen some things like James did this kind of 3D simulation type thing in one of his games that I've seen, so you can make it kind of look 3D. But is there any thinking about going towards actual 3D rendering?
Yeah, and the VR stuff is 3D. So we've got you actually your primitives actually have X and Y rotation, X, Y, and Z rotations. And yeah, the pseudo 3D stuff. I think that's ray casting to get your pseudo 3D. And we've got a sample app that shows how you can use triangles to kind of like create quasi 3D looking stuff, but nothing pure realistic 3D is inside of DragonRuby. And the primary reasons for that is one, the shaders we don't expose. While SDL uses shaders behind the scenes, there's no way to expose that surface that up to the user. And our projection space is a 2D plane, as opposed to there's a sample app for that. Yes, there is.
Yes.
We have a mouse look sample app. It's so much fun. That took me forever to make. That was a really tough sample app, by the way. So our rendering plane is still 2D. It's not projection space. And the biggest challenge with 3D is one, the experience. So I know 2D games extremely well. So the things that are added in DR are, I'm hoping, as far as the APIs, are a testament to building those kind of games. So I haven't done a 3D game, so I don't know what APIs are what are the foundational APIs that are needed to build productively those kind of 3D games. And as a solo dev, when you start getting into 3D games, you're butting up to that facet of sustainability. You've got 3D models, you've got texture space, you've got a lot of things that make it interesting. Well, it's the idea of building a 3D game sounds something like wanting to do is like, I need to make a 3D game. The realistic and feasibility of that actually happening and being a title that ships, that you can sustainably maintain, that makes money, it's a different question. And
right.
I don't know the answer to that.
Is there a hankering in the community for 3D dev? I don't. There's not a hankering, I don't think. Not that I've seen. There is questions and curiosity and stuff. I don't particularly want to try to do 3D games. For what I've seen from DR with the ray casting and the 3D simulation is even that is more than I'd ever want to do. So, because I know that 3D modeling is, people have whole careers just doing 3D modeling. So it's, it's a big thing to try to take on a 3D game. But I was just curious.
And when you get into modeling with animation stuff, it's even you take that 3D model and now you're doing skeletons. It's it's
a mess.
interesting. It's an interesting space. It's something that, you know, is I'm sure definitely fun learning. Like
Yeah,
it scratches that itch. But then the question is, do we want DR to be that thing where it's like, oh, you can do 3D, but don't actually expect to ship anything, or you know, we're doing 3D in such a way that lets you, you know, air quotes, ship a game. And I think for VR, the premise there is that we want to let DR devs to make fun 3D experiment in VR because it's fun, and I can
yeah,
make, you know, invaders 2D invaders, space invaders coming at me in a VR headset, and it's one property added to sprite, and that was the intent. When we start getting into 3D, the entire 3D space for PC, desktop, Mac, all the platforms in VR, it's a different question. The
yeah,
first step is shaders, though.
yeah,
So I think exposing that helps that evolution, and we can see where it goes from there.
yeah. And I think that's
But
a
yeah, what about y'all from the 3D standpoint? I know you mentioned it's like, maybe, but
yeah. I mean, I like playing around with it. Like, you know, I got some 3D modeling things just to play around and it kind of scratch my artistic itch, you know, and see what it's all about and kind of learn. But it's not something I would want to do, especially if my livelihood depended on it, because it's, you know, no time. Um,
it's really difficult for one person to do a 3D game.
yeah,
Despite what other engines say, it's tough.
yeah, it's
It's
not.
very difficult.
You know, and I played around with some of that 3D stuff in Unity, and it's complicated. It's hard to keep it corralled. It's, you know, there's 8 million assets you got to worry about for any little game. It's a mess. And I get it. It's, you know, it's fine, but it's not.
necessary. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
But you know, I don't want to do games like that. You know, I'm sitting here watching this car that turns thing, and I'm like, that looks, you know, if I didn't know better, I would say, oh, there's a little 3D model of a car there. You know?
Yeah, it's all
So,
hand drawn pixel stuff.
yeah. So I don't think that there's, well, and I mean, if you really think about it, everything on a computer is 2D because it's a flat screen. You know, it's just tricking
Right.
eyes and brains. So why couldn't you do that with sprites and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something I'm exploring, right? So the VR
Yeah.
stuff is going to help push that envelope. I want, you know, what's going to take to do a 3D model, because I want my Space Invaders to have depth. So if I look at it from the side, you know, I see the little voxel aspects to it. So we're using VR as that experiment in space,
Mm-hmm.
experimentation space, and then kind of push that envelope.
Right.
So
And I
we'll see
think
where it
that's
goes from there.
important for moving things forward is being able to have fun and experiment and play with it and be excited about it, because otherwise you just burn out. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I got to do another day of this stuff. I got
Yeah,
into
it's
it
just
because it's
checking a
fun.
checkbox on a
Yeah, I got
feature.
into it because it's
Yeah.
fun, but now it's a chore, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to just kind of, oh, let's try this little experiment and baby step our way into something new. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that kind of thinking. So I know that, you know, that there's basically three of you working on the engine at this point, doing different bits. And so obviously you can't do everything, right? And you're doing a great job of keeping the engine part going, but it seems like that's where you want to stay, is let's concentrate on the engine. You want your laser focus on the engine and what it needs to do. But I'm sure that as you develop games and stuff, you're sitting here going, gosh, I wish I had the facility to do this. I wish I had some kind of utility or some kind of plug-in that would help me with this thing. What kind of things do you sit and think about, gosh, I wish that somebody would make one of these for DR?
Yeah. So two things the community is actually doing, you know, a great job in kind of starting off and building the groundwork for is, of course, Chris's Palantir, being able to get visibility into your debug tools, your quasi tack into DR kind of IDE setup. So DR air quotes doesn't have an IDE. How do we debug and visualize this stuff? Well, Palantir, I feel, is one of those one of those like starting points of saying, I've got a DR game, let me point a pointer to it and see what information it can provide to us. And I think that's one of those things where we expose within the engine the facilities to do those kind of that kind of introspection, and then let someone that really cares about those kind of systems build that stuff out. And so that was like on my wish list, and works being done there. The other aspect is like onboarding and helping people start up. So the DR book is the initial workings of that stuff. So being able to point someone to a book and say, here you go, if you want to get started with DR, this is the book to help you get started on that stuff. Lori is doing all the DragonRuby.school. So that's those video if you want like a formalized course material. We've got that also. So those three things are helpful. For me, the biggest thing is kind of this. We've got the sample apps to kind of show you like starting points for different types of games. But if there was people that would formalize one of those specific genres and really dig in. So someone wants to make like a platformer, 2D side-scrolling platformer. You've got the platformer toolkit built on the DragonRuby toolkit that gives you all those like different facilities to do really tight, phenomenal platforming with all the algorithms in there and systems and facilities that lets you just say, I want to build my platformer. Another DR Tiled is another example of some of those like IDE tools and facilities. I want to see expansion on that. Visual novel creator is something that's on my bucket list. So people that love doing visual novels, but don't want to actually do the coding, what system do we have there? And I know there's talks about like ink or integrating ink into the ink language into DragonRuby.
Neat.
Those are the kind of cool facilities that I want to that would be cool to see there. And all these are specializations. Like I care about platforming, so I want the library or the expansion on top of DR that gives that. I care about narrative stuff, so I want that. Or roguelikes, I want that kind of stuff. Or ray tracing, all those like different enhancements to the system. So there's a facility for the library itself, and then the training up on that library. So is it a video series? Is it a how do we help with training people up, or air quotes supporting those kind of systems?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of things that I'd like to see, those kind of specializations there.
Right. Because like one of the things, I'm working on this Cave Lords Funsies project, but one of the reasons I decided to do that is because I'm really interested in the proc gen stuff, both the visual and the like the story based proc gen. And so I'm interested in making like hang off libraries to help with procedural generation stuff, but like you said, that's very specialized. If you're doing a side scroller, right, you don't need that stuff, but if you're doing proc gen, that's helpful stuff to have.
Yeah. And it's also that separation of people that like building dev tools and people like building games. Visual novels kind of have an interest in like a choose your own adventure thing, but I'd probably lean more on the wanting to build a tool to allow for people to build visual novels. But those building visual novels don't want to build a tool. They want something, they've got this idea and say, I want to do this. Please let me do this. Easily or simply. Or same thing with 2D platformer. I don't care about the physics and collision. I want that to work. What I want is the interesting Mario spinoff that I want to create that does cool things without me having to worry about all the crazy platforming stuff.
Yeah.
And I think those are the kind of specializations and systems that would be helpful to have. And it's something that I want to support, right? I'll put you inside of the docs. Like if you want to do 2D platformer, take a look at the sample app, but more easily take a look at this thing that this other person built, and just support each other from that kind of sustainably support each other from that kind of facet.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the good things about this community is that there's a lot of that goes on in in the Discord is somebody asks a question, they say, "Hey, go look at this. Go look at DR tiled, or go look at this thing, or go look at Palantir because you're trying to get debug stuff." A lot of that happens in that Discord community, which is really, really good. And so I think it's a great place to kind of foster people to say, oh, somebody has asked about this need. There's nothing out there that does this. Let me create one because I'm interested in that too. And then everybody can benefit from it.
Yeah, and I'll send out the email to our mailing list, and that's a big mailing list. Trust me. I mean, you put in the effort. It's important, and I mean, it's a criticism that we've gotten with DR2. It feels like more like a Cathedral Bazaar kind of setup. It's like, oh, talk to this guy, talk to this person, and he'll send you down to this other guy, and it's like this telephone game of trying to find the person that you want to talk to, but we'll see where it goes. Like formalization kind of will comes and is needed as people say like, hey, we need a dedicated room or need dedicated docs or something formalized. But
well, maybe that's something else somebody in the community could take on, or a team in the community is, let's get a place to kind of centralize this information so that, hey, I'm looking for libraries that do X. Well, I can go here and find all the libraries that do X and write-ups on them and how they work. Maybe somebody in the community could take that stuff on. That's not my ball of wax. I don't like doing that kind of stuff, but there are people that love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and for me, the important part is that I want it to be sustainable. So it's like you're not doing it for free, or if you're doing it for free, there's some path for you to be able to do what you enjoy doing in a sustainable way, and not like burning the midnight oil.
Right.
So that's something that I'll literally tell people, don't do this, or don't commit to this if just be careful on the commitment side. Or someone asks a question about, hey, this open source library is missing this feature, and they try to ping the original developer, I'll be like, well, how about you clone the repo and try to figure it out, because that's going to grow that sustainability aspect to there.
Yeah.
And it's important, and I try to incentivize that as best as I can, just to protect the original contributors, and then help the buzz factor.
Yeah.
But sustainability is important.
Yeah, and certainly too, we're willing to help with that. Like last week we had Kevin on talking about Palantir, and kind of showcasing that, because I think it's a really, really good tool and it helps the DR community, and we want to expose that stuff. And on Coding with Chris, I will pull in libraries that people are working on and play with them and beat on them and give feedback on them. So I'm perfectly willing to help with that kind of stuff, exposure and things, because like you, I think that's very important for community growth. And that's, I think that's our area of expertise, is kind of community growth type stuff. And so, if anybody wants to get into making something, needs to get set up, needs to, you want a little library that you're thinking about doing, reach out to me. I will jump in and try to help you get, not do the coding for you, because I just don't have time, but I will do the community interaction parts for you.
Yep. You're the bar that everyone goes to, or
Right. Yeah.
like,
exactly.
hey, where do we go? Where do we go? Or some places have like the guild societies. You're like the guild house where everyone comes to find a guild to be part of. So
right, and that's
a lot of RPG elements, if you can't tell.
Right. So, and I'm really excited about the June 29th show, where we just have the panel and party. I'm just getting a bunch of people on this show in Zoom, and just kind of hanging out and talking about what we like with DR, and meeting people face to face. Like one of the best things that I've had this month, since I made this DragonRuby month, is that I've gotten to meet several people that I've only talked to in Discord, and they seem like really cool people, but then I can get them on the show, so cool. That's been really fun, and I think that goes a long way to kind of building community stuff. And so it's fun. So what other are there any other things on the horizon that like broad strokes things that you would like to uh, eventually get into DragonRuby? I know you're kind of focused, you've got most of your broad strokes and you're kind of focused on optimizing those right now.
Right.
But are there any broad strokes missing that you go, gosh, if I had a magic wand?
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing there is what Alex is currently working on. So he's working on the AOT compiler for DragonRuby. So we've codenamed it Firestorm because obviously, you know, you got to go with the DragonRuby theme. But the idea around Firestorm is to take your Ruby code and make it native bit code for your machine. So instead of it being something that's interpreted, we take the Ruby code that gets converted into bytecode, which is the instructions for the virtual machine that are run, and then those virtual machine instructions are then optimized through the compiler, and then translation directly into machine code. So you lose the interpretation layer, and you get extremely fast native speed. So it's like writing a C extension, but in Ruby is kind of what we're shooting for.
Nice.
And that's it's a lot of work, and it's one of those things where, yeah, if you can wave a magic wand, that would be incredible. And we're still speculative on the performance improvements that we could potentially see, but 20 to 30% improvement is kind of what we're seeing right now. And this is 20 to 30% improvement on the game code that you're writing. And then on top of that, a lot of the engine code in DragonRuby is written in Ruby. So there'll be a 20 to 30% improvement on that code. So it compounds significantly.
That's not insignificant.
Across.
I mean, that's
it doesn't. Yeah, it starts becoming a big deal considering all the machinery we currently have that's not written in C. And so it remains to be seen, if when rubber hits the road, if we're actually going to see that kind of improvement. But the AOT compilation, being able to do that, is just it'd be a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
big deal.
So forgive my naivete and my basic knowledge of DragonRuby. I haven't used it still as of yet. But when you use DragonRuby, is there a compile step or is it all interpreted?
So we have parts of it that are pre-compiled. So some of the engine machinery is pre-compiled as C, and then it invokes interpreted code, such as your game code and
right. But your game code is all interpreted.
It's all interpreted. Yes.
So with the advent of this AOT compiler you're mentioning, that would require compiling.
Yes, it
would
of
your game code to of course get those benefits and okay.
Yeah, and the thing is they'll be handled by the publishing process. So when you actually do your publishing process, it will take your game code and compile it down to bit code. So right now we've got a form of compilation that occurs, which is bytecode compilation, and what it does is it takes your Ruby code and converts it into machine instructions for the mRuby virtual machine. So you've got your Ruby code, and then we run through that, and it gets converted into the actual virtual machine opcodes that mRuby understands. So you get some benefit on load speed for that. You get a little bit of code obfuscation if that's something that's important to you. You get a bit of that because they're looking at now Ruby assembly code instead of Ruby. But then that next step is to take that Ruby assembly code and convert it to actual machine code, and that's something that doesn't exist right now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interpreted at air quotes different levels.
Cool. So one of the things that I would like to, honestly, I wish we had like 3 or 4 hours today, because I'd like to give chat a big opportunity to start asking about wish list items. You're live and get straight from the horse's mouth. That ain't never going to happen, or hey, we could take a look at that. But we do have kind of a time limit. So one of the things that I would like to see, and I'm perfectly willing to kind of proctor this if there's interest in it, is something on the Discord that would be kind of a wish list that is kind kind of public, but kept in line so it doesn't get out of control. Because I think the community is going to have tons of good ideas, but I think there needs to be a place where, hey, I kind of wish I had this, and other community members can look and say, oh, I could take that on.
Oh, okay, I see. I like that idea, as opposed to having those things, go feedback, bug report thing straight to DR, and me going, no,
Right.
that's not happening.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah. Not
actually
the
have
not the wish list for Amir, but the wish
yes.
list for the community. Yeah. You've already got enough of that.
Yeah, it's like I got enough wish list thing, but I like, yeah, I like that idea, and more. I can create a room. Just say the word, and we can actually have the guild hall if we want to use that as like a team building kind of guild forming place.
I like that.
I've got a contract that I need taken care of. Who's the team that will slay this dragon for me?
Awesome.
No, not dragon. Slay this goblin. We don't.
Yeah,
slay
we like the
dragons.
dragons.
We like
They need to. We want to make more dragons. But yeah, I even like the naming here, the guild hall. Let's do that. All right. So chat, I need you to get into Discord and start talking about that and showing us a level of interest, right? Is this worth us putting some time into? Where we can have people say, "Hey, I'm looking for something to do this." And having community members say, "Oh yeah, I can put together a team to take that on, or take it on myself, or I'll work on this. Tag me." Is that something the community would like to see? And if so, let us know in the Discord, and we'll work on putting something like that together and see if we can build some more libraries for ourselves in kind of a controlled way that stays not
keeps it
nuts.
from burning out. Yeah.
So yeah, let us know. I would say let us know now, but we're kind of running short on time, so darn it. Amir,
There was a question about like a 4x release. What about 5x? Any idea on the timeline? 5x means breaking changes. I never want to do a 5x release ever, if at all possible. But like from a standpoint of like what is the next epoch release, like feature that would say this is considerably more enhanced than what we currently have. I think Firestorm would be the big 5.0 thing. If we're able to pull that off, we're essentially communicating that we've got a runtime faster than MRuby and potentially CRuby. Who knows? It'd be interesting to see where we can take that.
Yeah, and I guess that's from what I'm hearing and seeing on Discord. That's kind of the last broad strokes thing that you actually have a plan for at this point, right?
Yeah.
So everything else is kind of honing in what you've already got and optimizing and stomping bugs and putting out fires and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's weird to say like we've got all the big features that lets you do cross-platform stuff. Steam was kind of like the Steam packaging, while you could do it manually through Steamworks APIs and toolchains. Getting that packaging mechanism to just work was kind of like that last little piece that needed knots tying on, and being able to release to Steam was big.
Yeah. Would converting from MRuby to CRuby allow for private method support? I don't think you can convert to CRuby in DragonRuby because the whole point of MRuby is it's embedded.
Yeah, it's the embedded stuff. Private method support, not going to happen. Is probably where that lies. If you want private methods, put underscores on each side of it, and that's kind of like your private recommendation, saying if you see underscores on both sides of the methods, it's considered private.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the recommendation I would get. It adds complexity to the parser, the compiler, overhead. It's a lot that has to be taken into consideration. I think private keyword also has to take in consideration this concept of a binding. So in CRuby, you can, like for ERB, you've got binding, which kind of changes the context of whatever the function's running in. MRuby does not have that, and that's extremely important that never gets introduced, because that would affect AOT compilation, because we never know what class this piece of construct is operating on if that binding keyword gets introduced. So it remains to be. Again, I'm not 100% sure that's how private works, the private keyword, but like private defined a lot of these like keyword facilities, while powerful, hinder some of the AOT capabilities that exist.
Right.
So you just got to be careful about those things.
Which brings to mind another good thing that the community might be able to take on, which is a kind of recommended best practices list somewhere. Yeah, if you want to mark something as private, do this. I mean, I use the private keyword in my code, and I know that MRuby ignores that, but I just use it to help me think of, oh yeah, these things are, I shouldn't be calling these. But that's all visual. There is no, the code isn't going to enforce that.
Yeah, and I think the double underscore on each side is helpful. I think there even object itself, or the Ruby object has double underscores on each side for the send function. So if you redefine send, then you still have underscore underscore send underscore underscore, and I think the same thing for object ID. It's for that reason.
Yeah. So yeah, community, if you have any SOPs, maybe we open an SOP room as well. Best practice room, something like that. That, call it dragon scales or something. I don't know. Anyway, little bite-sized chunks of useful information.
Love it.
But yeah, so we want to get the community involved and start expanding this. Amir and the DragonRuby team have done a great job of giving us the engine that we need to do this stuff, but now it's kind of up to the community to start packing that out and making the libraries that we want, and let Amir and them concentrate on making the engine faster, better, that kind of stuff. We want them to work on the speed. We'll work on the convenience.
Right.
So, anyway, talk to me in Discord, folks. Let me know. Talk to Amir. We're usually there in the Discord. I've got it all day long, every day, sitting up next to me. So, I like to be involved. So, ping us. Let us know what your thinking is. Let us know what you want to do there. I hate to say that we're up on time, but we're up on time. So thank you very much, Amir, for being here with us. I appreciate you taking.
Keep an eye out on the C extensions that are coming out hopefully soon.
So I want to talk to you more about that and get you on. We'll get you on a Tuesday so we can kind of run through that and see if we can get that stuff converted over. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really did. Thank you so much. Thank you for being in chat and asking questions. If you did enjoy that, please like, subscribe, follow. All that stuff is free and it makes me feel really good. So, that's the support I need from you guys. That's all I need. And share it with your friends. Tell your friends about DragonRuby. Tell your friends about our show. Bring your friends on Tuesdays and Thursdays to hang out with us and chat and ask questions and just be generally cool. We will be back. I'll be back on Tuesday with Coding with Chris. Not sure what I'll work on exactly yet, but we'll figure it out, and I'll let you guys know in the Discord. And Thursday, we are coming back with, oh gosh, who do we have Thursday? Let me look. I've kind of forgotten. Where are we at? Oh, we've got Coda coming on to talk about robotics and 3D stuff. That should be fun. Oh boy. So yeah, make sure
they are a mad scientist. Like, I think Coda is the fastest 10th degree black belt we've ever had in the history of DragonRuby. I think they hit that spot in 5 to 7 days, 10th degree.
Wow.
From nothing to it's insanity.
That's nuts. So I'm excited to see that, because it kind of gave me a bit of a debrief on what they're doing with the DragonRuby in the robotics stuff, and it sounded really, really cool. So I'm excited to talk to him about that project and see what's going on with that. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. We will see you Tuesday and Thursday next week for more DragonRuby, and then the week after that, it's party time. So make sure you ping me if you want to be involved in the party. It's just a simple Zoom chat, just like you can see Amir doing here. Connect with Zoom and talk. That's all it is. So make sure you come for the party. Let me know in the Discord if you want me to invite you, and I will do so. And we will see you then. Until then, happy coding!
Happy coding.